right in front of.
Y'all know what this is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Things Undone podcast. I am your host, Granny She Is. And on this show, we talk about life after divorce and how to move forward successfully. And you don't have to be a divorcee to join the conversation. You can be single, happily married, widow, whatever the case may be. We have some information for you. Now, today, joining me is my guest, Kari Petruch. She is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. She is a life coach, and she owns Highest Intent Life Coaching. And we are so glad to have her with us today. If I could get my words out correctly, welcome.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. I'm so glad that we cross paths. I just love how the Holy Spirit does that, right?
Mm.
He puts us together. So today we're going to be discussing relationships and how to make them last longer, right? Or as long as they can last. Here, till death do us part. That is the goal. It's still the
Mm.
goal. I know it's what is this? I don't know, this new age where everything's temporary and instant gratification. The goal is
Mm.
longevity. That is the goal.
Mm.
All right, so we're going to be talking about get out of the box and into play, the secret to a lasting relationship. So before we get into that, could you please give us your backstory and what led you to life coaching and what led you to helping people master their relationships?
Well, without making it a really long, drawn out story, I grew up in a very abusive home and didn't, my mother suffered from a mental illness. And then I graduated from that into an abusive marriage for 27 years. Where after that time, I decided that in order for me to survive, I needed to get out. And I also needed a lot of help and understanding about how relationships really work and the core of what makes a beautiful relationship and how it can change my life and my understanding about having a lifelong partner. I had to change the way that I thought about what I wanted from a lifelong partner. I married very young and I didn't understand, of course, ooh, I want to get married, oh, I'm in love, not that there's something wrong with every marriage that begins at an early age, but in this situation, I had come from such an abusive background that I didn't understand what a healthy, even any comprehension of what a healthy relationship looked like.
Right.
So when I left that marriage, I went and sought professional help, and then I decided that I wanted to help other people find the magic that I found and that it's really possible to find that one and only. And it's really possible to have joy and excitement in your life and in your relationships. And um, being miserable is a choice. Being happy is a choice.
Very.
And I choose joy.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And listen, audience, feel free to comment, to chime in, to just say hello if you're popping through. Please let us know that you are here. We will definitely be adding you to the conversation as we go. So, moving past, we already said we're moving past divorce, moving forward.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
meeting this new person that you're now with, how long have you been in your current commitment? And what do you feel is the glue that's holding it together?
Well, we are in love, of course, and there's a beautiful story of how we met and how we got together. I met him at a friend's house, and he it was kind of a social club where we all kind of got together to play board games, things like that. And um, I met him, and I thought this is a pretty neat guy. And so finally, he asked me out on a date, and that took like 6 months before he asked me out on a date. And he was taking it really slow. We went out on a date, and he said, "I want you to see my house." And I thought, "Oh, I don't know about that," but I decided to go, and I had, we're going to see your house, and then we're leaving, and which is what we did. But in the meantime, I needed to go to the bathroom. And so on his mirror was a piece of paper, and he was looking for. He'd had a really bad marriage before mine, or before me, and so I was looking at this piece of paper while I was washing my hands, and the description of what he wanted in his soulmate was written out on there.
Wow.
What struck me is I have had a at the time I had a piece of paper on my mirror with what I wanted my soulmate to look like. And my eyes went to the bottom of the piece of paper,
Mhm.
and the date on it was 10/11/12. The
Stop it.
date on my piece of paper said 10/11/12. We had no idea that we were going to come together. So I believe that these things can happen. I believe that when things are supposed to happen the way they're supposed to happen, they do. So, he turned out to be my perfect soulmate. Is our relationship perfect all the time? No. Do we argue sometimes? Yes. Do we get on each other's nerves sometimes? Yes. And if we didn't have conflict, then I would be worried. But we
Yeah.
do. That causes us to grow.
And I love it. And I want to say this before we move forward. When it comes
Mhm.
to when you're in alignment with someone,
Mhm.
you have those things called synchronicities,
Mhm.
where the date on his mirror and your mirror, you had someone that was mirroring you, like you had a soulmate that was already out there
Mhm.
gravitating towards you as you were gravitating towards him. Because I know a lot of people, they think, well, I'm manifesting this, but I don't see it yet. But the thing
Mhm.
I like about your story is the fact that you weren't even looking for a
Mm.
particular person. You didn't put a face to it. You just wrote on that mirror what you wanted. And he wrote on
Mhm.
his mirror what he wanted. And the
Right.
universe made it happen. Okay. You can call it universe,
Yeah.
Holy Spirit. I know everyone doesn't have that same mentality, but we all strive in hope and faith in something. So
Right.
I believe that is, even though we can't quantify it, it's
Mhm.
not a scientific thing that we can write down and we can do a chart on. Okay, Carrie, this is what you went through, and this is how we may not be able to measure the algorithm of a synchronicity,
Mhm.
but it happened for you. It's a real thing, people.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's
I'm
a
going to
real
focus
thing.
on that. It's a very real thing. You will gravitate towards what you put out in the universe. You really will. So,
Mhm.
with that being said, let's jump into the book. Tell us
Okay.
about let me pull up the title again because I have it right here, but I'm spinning like a thousand other thoughts in my head.
Mhm.
Get out of the box and into play. Getting out of the box and into
Mhm.
play. What is that about?
Well, the box we're given from birth.
Mhm.
So we're given the gift of life, but the world gives us a box to put ourselves in. And sometimes we fit in the box, and sometimes we, push the edges of the box, and that box is basically, begins with what your parents teach you, what your school teaches you. If you grew up in a church, what your church family teaches you. When you get to be a teenager, what teenagers teach you, what the world teaches you, and during your whole growing up time establishes your belief system, and your belief system is your box. I mean, it's some people are comfortable with the box that they're given, and some people aren't. Some people grow through it and past it, and some people really need to stay in their box, and that's okay to want to be in that box. We've got to a whole society out here that is condemning boxes. And the deal is not everybody can be look outside the box. We need people who stay inside the box just as much as we need people who can look outside the box. So this isn't really telling people to change who they are, but it's really a book to get them to examine each other's belief system or their boxes and to decide to accept those boxes and to compromise on what you will, have in your life and what you won't have in your life. And every couple needs to take that hard, honest look at what they grew up believing in so that they can have heartfelt understanding and compassion for their partner. It just brings intimacy and love so much closer when you can do that. The greatest division in couples are the division in beliefs and the division in that heartfelt understanding. I might not really like the way that you believe, but I love you anyway.
Right.
And that is the one person who knows every single thing that there is to know about you. They know when you fart. I mean, let's get real. This is the person that you are trusting your innermost vulnerability. And if you really want that intimacy, it's important that you understand where each of you comes from. And that's where the beginning of the book goes. If you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, this is basic psychology for you to look at. But not everybody out there knows that. And it's so simple and so easy to read.
And I believe that. And I think, and you probably touch on this, I'm going to get the book myself. I haven't gotten it yet. But I think a lot of times, too, in order to be vulnerable, we need to move past our ego and our pride. And I think that's a big blockage for so many, because in that box that we're given, that's a part of it. We're taught that certain things shouldn't be expressed within our relationships. We're taught that as a woman, there's certain things you shouldn't express. And as a man, oh my goodness, I'm not a man, but it's certain things they don't supposed to express. And so now you're operating out of a place of ego, which is, that's a big part of self-protection, because you don't want to get hurt. And so because I don't want to get hurt, I'm going to keep myself in this limiting belief. I'm going to keep myself in this little area. And I'm not saying jump all out your box, because again, everyone wasn't meant to be a bird. Everyone's not meant to fly. If we were all birds, life would be boring. Or if we were all gazelles, life would be boring.
Right.
So I get that. But at the same time, I think within relationships, we should challenge one another to be better for each other, for ourselves and for each other. So I need to be able to have a partner where I can have a hard conversation with, so we can move past whatever the block is.
Right.
Because I think it'll eliminate so many other problems. But it's the second part to that title, because we're still on the title, y'all. The second part of that title, hold on, and it is The Secret to a Lasting Relationship. So we don't want to give you all the secret, because we're going to push you over to that website in just a little bit. But just give us a little bit into that. So how do you all, what would be your advice? I guess the question I want to ask is to, especially for those of us who are still out here looking for our forever partner. So what would be your advice for us to move in such a way that we gravitate that person to us in our energy? I guess that's the question I'm looking for. Or if you're already in a committed relationship, how to keep there, how to keep alignment, how to get yourself in alignment to where your partner can find you. That's the question.
If you're not in a committed relationship, my belief and what I tell many other men and women who are single and who are looking for that one is, you be you. Just be you. Don't try to pretend to be anything that you're not. And that's when that comes to you. So many times there are men and women who put on a show, the dates, and you go out and maybe you're dating for 3 months, maybe even 6 months, and all of a sudden you become you. And why not just be you from the beginning?
Right.
Why not just be you? It's not a shopping cart. You're not being picked over and looked over. You go to a restaurant, eat your food. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you eat your food. Don't sit there and pick at your food and then go home and shove food in your face. Just be you.
Mm-hmm.
Be you. Share you. Because if it's supposed to be, it will be.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that I've had so many couples that have talked about that 3 month, 6 month period, and the ones who get together, stay together, are the ones that just were themselves from the get go, from the beginning.
It's the
This
best
is
thing to
me.
me. Mhm. I
Yeah.
will say this. Now, I've been single now for 3 years, almost up
Mhm.
3 years, 3 years.
Mhm.
Now, in dating, that's the one thing I did realize is people wear masks, and so they can
Mhm.
maintain that for a good 90 days, 6 months max. But when you meet me, this is me. Now, mind
Mhm.
you, for the man that gets to meet
Mhm.
me, I will snatch my wig off in front of him because, like, listen, sir,
Mhm.
out together and it's hot. I'm gonna need you to know at any point this wig could come off. Okay. Or at any point when you
Right.
see me, I may not always have makeup on. I'm gonna always be genuine. I'm gonna always be me. And
Mhm.
um, it's part of that pride. People want
Right.
to impress you so much that they're afraid to just be themselves because of something that's lacking within. Now, I'm speaking this way because I have been on my healing journey for a minute now.
Mhm.
And so what I
Yeah.
learned is that when I meet people, guys in general, because I'm cisgender heterosexual, I prefer men, and whatever you
Mhm.
prefer is what you prefer, audience that's watching.
Mhm.
But what I've noticed is, in some way, shape, or form, it's like they're, I call it peacocking. You're trying to show me your best feathers.
Mhm.
You have your plume just displayed in its beautiful array until
Right.
your muscles get tired of flexing those feathers because you're supposed to let them down to rest at some point. But you're trying to impress me
Right.
to the point to where you are straining yourself. And now
Mhm.
now you can't uphold that image anymore. You have to let the plumage down. And now I get to see just you. But now I feel like you're not a genuine person because you didn't show me that in the very
Mhm.
beginning. You waited
That's
3 months
right.
to show me who you were. Now I have a trust issue with you because we didn't even set it up correctly. Okay, Wayne said,
Right.
I call it the representative of who they want you to see them as versus who they really are. I want
Right.
to meet the person who they really are. I don't want to
Mhm.
see Clark Kent. Clark Kent is the disguise for Superman, not the
Mhm.
other way around. Superman
Right.
wasn't pretending. I mean, well, Clark Kent wasn't pretending to be Superman. Superman was pretending to be Clark Kent, and
Right.
he hid his identity. If you're Superman, show me you're Superman. But if
Right.
you're zero man, I need to see that up front too. And for
Well,
men, this is the same. If whoever you
yeah.
date, it's the same. You want to see
Mhm.
that person. I don't want to be fooled into thinking you're one thing, and then I find out you're something else. And now I'm kind of disappointed because now I can't
Mhm.
talk to you no more because I don't trust you anymore. He said,
Well,
"Me, you do this very well." Yes. You want to answer?
yes.
Get in here into this conversation, Carrie, because as you can clearly see, I will talk and talk and talk and
Oh,
talk.
yeah. Hey, look, the other one of the other major problems is how you treat each other
Mhm.
after that 3 month period goes on. My husband is my king, and I
Yes.
am his queen. And we don't have a 50-50 relationship. Sometimes I'm at 20% and he's 80%, and sometimes he's at 20% and I'm 80%. There ain't no such thing as a 50-50 relationship.
No.
you know we're not all on the mark every day. It doesn't happen. Some days are good days and some days not so good days,
Right.
and the balance for the two of us is to be there for each other. If you can strike that balance before you commit to a serious relationship, if
Mhm.
you can be a friend to the person you're in a relationship with, be friends with them. The person that you know is going to be there. You call on the phone and say, you know, I'm feeling ugly at somebody at work and I need to talk about it, and you build that friendship and build that relationship and build that trust. Nobody trusts anybody first off in first meeting, you know.
Mhm.
You build that trust together. Take the time to do that, and treat each other like that's the best person that's ever happened to me in my life. This is no matter if the relationship lasts or doesn't last for
Mhm.
that time period, this is my king and you are my queen.
Right.
And give each other the best that you've got in the way of being there for that person. It creates such intimacy and such a great relationship. And you know what? After 3 months, you ought to know if that's your king.
You know,
You ought to know
I
if
think
that's your queen. Both ways, both ways. You know, it's not just guys, it's girls too. I mean, in all kind of relationships, whether, doesn't matter what your sexual preference is.
right.
You know within 3 months if that's the person that's meant for you or not. And if it isn't, say goodbye with grace, love, and dignity.
Very true. Very true. What did Wayne say? I don't unless she
Dwayne.
gets gas or uses the restroom around me. Guards are down at that point.
All right, now, Dwayne, I got to be honest with you. I will not pass gas in front of my husband. I'm in the restroom or I go outside. Now, that's the God's honest truth because I was raised. No woman does that. That's just my upbringing. Woman does not
Oh,
do that in front of men.
I'm horrible. I am so terrible.
I will not.
Oh
But
my
that's
goodness.
that's my upbringing and my belief system and
Right.
my way of stuff, you know.
I completely get that. I
Yeah.
will fart in front of you. Let me tell you, years ago, when I was still in my marriage years and years ago, we went to
Mhm.
the movies and it's dark in the movies, guys. It's like really dark in there.
Mhm.
So I had been holding gas like the entire movie, the
Oh
entire,
my.
and I just couldn't let it out because everyone would have known that it was me. So I waited for us to stand up and I grabbed my ex around the waist and I farted so loud and then I stepped back. And then his brother was like, "Oh my God, blank. I'm gonna say his name." He was like, "Why'd you do that?" And then my ex was like, "That wasn't even me. That was Cheryl." And he was like, "Oh no, her body can't produce something like that." I was like, "Oh, you kidding, right? It was definitely him." And we got home and we had this fart competition going on. Like
Oh my.
fart worse than the other person. And that was just a
Oh
paycheck
my.
because he had already farted
Yeah.
prior to us going to the movie. So I had to get.
Right.
But
Right.
that's just a little tidbit. I will fart. Like I'm telling you, once
But
I'm
that
with you, I'm like really, really.
that's the good stuff,
Mm,
actually. That's the stuff that makes you the things that you know about each other. My husband says I fart in my sleep. So,
so
I won't do it in front of him, but
he's heard you.
but we know those things about each other, you know.
Mhm.
I know exactly how he snores every single night, and I know which snore's going to wake me up, and um you just that's all the good stuff. This is the stuff that you laugh about and you remember, and if you can't laugh, God help you.
I
You know,
know that
there's
part. Like,
no
my goodness.
humor you just hang it up. If there's no humor, if somebody's so serious all the time and is always worried about what other people think, and nah, just have fun. If you're not having fun, y'all don't belong together.
That part. Like everything shouldn't be an unhealthy competition in your relationship.
Hmm.
It just shouldn't be. So going back to
Right.
something that you said, I've been running my mouth. I'm trying to think because I was trying to hold the thought in my head. Okay, so Jonathan, hey Jonathan, let's get on this before I move to the next one. So I've heard that our credit score is a true representation of who we really are. At what time do we share what our credit scores are?
The minute you begin to share financial responsibilities,
I love it. I
right
love that
then.
answer.
Otherwise, until that happens, it's your business and your partner's business. Until you start sharing financial responsibilities, you know, no,
I
you
love it. We
know,
should put that on a plaque somewhere. That was mwah, that
yes,
answer. Right. I get it. And I
Right.
don't believe that credit scores really measure the character of a person because I went through a very
Mm.
terrible divorce, which forced me to bankrupt. So
Right.
that has nothing to do with my character. That has everything to do with my income being cut in half.
Well,
So,
when I went through my
yeah.
divorce, I was 45 years old. And at 45 years old, I had a zero credit score. I didn't have one. I was never allowed to have a checking account. I was never allowed to have any bank accounts. I was not allowed to have any credit cards at all. I was given cash every week. So I had no credit score. The banks were in shock. So the credit score doesn't necessarily mean fiscal irresponsibility. That's a conversation that you have
Right.
together before you decide to join together fiscal responsibilities. You have that conversation, then you really look at it and you say, this is my credit score, these are my bills, this is my debt. And when you start going together, that's when you have that conversation, but not before.
I 100% agree with that because yeah, that does
Mhm.
not measure. And even people who have excellent credit scores can be some of the crappiest people you will ever meet
Well, yeah.
in your life. So that doesn't your credit score doesn't define your character. Not it's that's me not in my opinion. And
Absolutely. And there are people who can have excellent credit scores and be $50,000 in debt just because they pay their bills on time doesn't mean that they are financially sound.
very true. And I think that's a misconception. One another thing I'm
Mhm.
noticing with people who are looking for partners is we get too caught up on the financial part of it. And we
Mhm.
feel like, oh, well, they look this good on paper, so that's what I should go for, this person who looks financially sound. And then you find out this person is not what they appear to be. It goes back to wearing the mask.
Right. Well,
Um,
and it goes back to your list. What do you want?
there.
Um, I don't care if you have a fancy car as much as I care that you have integrity.
Mhm.
I don't care that you have, money in the bank as much as I care that you open the door for me and buy me flowers and treat me like I'm the queen you want me to be. And there's so much more that's important to me than it has to do with any of that. I'm not checking you out financially before I go out on a date with you, but that's
Right.
just me because that isn't what qualifies um, that partner for or didn't qualify for that partner for me. So
I completely get that.
yeah.
You touched on something. We didn't really
Hmm.
talk about the list and
Right.
how people can put this together. So let's talk about that. Like, so building your list because you and
Hmm.
your partner were like, boom, you
Right.
put it together and the universe said, okay, we got this order, we got that
Hmm.
order.
Right.
Boom, we're gonna make
Right.
this happen. So because people sometimes we don't realize that we unconsciously manifest
Hmm.
um, what we don't want in a person versus what we do want in a person. So
Right.
what would be your recommendations for us to begin this list? Like what should we be what are like some of the things elements that we should be looking at? And I know that may sound like a crazy question, but
No,
I
it isn't.
yeah.
It's not crazy at all. I get asked that. It's in the book too, by the way.
All right, cool.
So it's not crazy at all. People have asked me this for years and years, and here it is. Um, if your list includes what kind of car they drive, how much money they make, how they dress, where they've traveled in the world, all of those things that are there, then you're never going to find the one that's right for you.
Mhm.
You never are. They got to have, this color hair. They got to have make a job that makes this much money. They got to have blah 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 blah. Never going to happen.
Mhm.
Not the right one for you. It isn't. If you're looking for a list of what's true and good, you know, is integrity important to you?
Mhm.
Integrity is honesty. You mean what you say what you mean. Is that an important value for you in your life? And there's a whole list in the book, there's a whole list of values. If
Mhm.
you base that list on what you are looking for, is a belief in God key and essential to you? A God or a higher power or a spiritual belief, are those key and essential to a relationship where you can feel intimate and you can feel vulnerable for them
Mhm.
to have these particular things? is faithfulness, is um, you know, being faithful to you, being faithful to your family, being faithful to their beliefs, being faithful. Is that important to you? Examine your values and set yourself up against who you want in your life that match your values.
Right.
Nobody needs a partner that's exactly like they are. If you're looking for that, then you're never going to grow, and that's also doomed to failure. Just forget it.
Yeah.
You need somebody who is different than you, because that is the beauty of a relationship, is that you guys get to grow together. You get to. And you get to be in conflict, and you get to work things out, and you get to
Right.
make up and love each other, and you get to do it again and again and again. That's the beauty of a relationship.
That
And
is
if
the
you're
beauty.
looking for somebody who does lip service and mimics everything that you say, and is just like you, and
Yeah.
does everything that you say, then you're going to be really bored.
Yes, indeed. Okay, listen, we're going to take a quick break.
Cool.
I think it's break time. We're at 30 minutes. So we're going to take a quick break, everyone, and we will be back in at a minute. Take us out, Wayne. We are back, and if you are just joining us, we're talking with Kari Petruch. She is a master
Mhm.
relationship coach, and she is the owner of Highest Intent Coaching.com, and we are discussing ways to master your relationship. We're going to touch on the book
Mhm.
a little bit more, but before we do that, I want to remind you guys to please download the BWNC radio app. It is free. This show streams on there, as well as all of the other I Am Woe Media Group shows. She's Talking Tea is a brand new show with our girl Co. We have Underground Sports King. We have I Am Woe podcast, specifically to deal with men's issues. We have newer shows coming. I just can't think of the name of all of them, but you'll see them on my page. By all means, make sure you're following All Things Undone podcast. We are available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on Facebook and on YouTube and on BWNZ Radio. I think that's my spiel. Okay.
That was pretty good. That
That
was pretty
was pretty
good.
good. All right, cool beans. I think I just knocked off one of my lights, but I think I still look good. We'll see if we can plug it back in. Yay! Okay, there it is. So we
There
are.
she is.
If you're just joining us, we are talking relationships. We were talking about, like, when you want to manifest a
Mhm.
partner for yourself.
Mhm.
She was talking about ways in which you should do that. If you're kind of keeping your list on the 3D side, where you just pretty much want them to have a fancy car, big house, a lot of money. He has to be rich. She has to be
Mhm.
beautiful with a big booty. You know, she has to look like Kim Kardashian. If you're keeping it on the surface level, you will probably never attract who you're looking for. And I've been guilty of this in the past. I literally
Mhm.
said at one point, I want someone who's like me, but they're a male with a penis. You don't want that. Because then I met
Mhm.
someone that's like me. And what it made me
Right.
do, it triggered me to heal even more. Because I'm like, oh my God, I'm an asshole. It
Oh, no, no. But you see, that,
was a lesson. It was a beautiful lesson. Like you
but
said.
that's what culture teaches us,
Mhm.
is to look for that.
Very
Men and women, it teaches us to look for all those surface things, and the truth is that, yeah, you may attract those things to you, but that deeper intimacy doesn't. Um, those are those 3 month relationships. If you don't have the alignment and values, then that's really not the person that's meant for you. And yes, there are marriages that last an entire lifetime based on that, and they're miserable.
I had one.
So,
I was married for 25
mhm,
years, and we
yep,
made it work. And for all intents and purposes, it was a very cordial relationship. Like we
mhm,
got along well. Um, but was he my soulmate? Absolutely not. Was I his?
mhm,
Oh, we had three beautiful children together, and we
mhm,
made a beautiful life together. But now that in hindsight that I'm looking back on it, neither of us was truly fulfilled.
mhm,
Neither of us were really giving the other partner what they needed. But because
mhm,
we were in our boxes and we were afraid to step out and be the people that we truly are, we
mhm,
stayed in this mental prison for
mhm,
way longer than we needed to. We actually had made a decision to separate back in 2008, which should have been the end of it. It really should have been. But the
mhm.
pressure of society, the church, our families, you have
Yeah.
children, stay together, work it out, longevity, blah, 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 blah. And I do preach longevity, but if it's with someone you're supposed to be aligned with.
Well,
And what
yeah.
happened was he realized it before I did that I am unhappy. Now, divorces end terribly because unfortunately we were not raised and equipped to own our own shit when going through a divorce. 9 times out of
Yeah.
10, it's like, I want a divorce because you're not fulfilling me, which is absolutely the truth. But 9 times out of 10, you place all the blame on the partner and you don't take any blame for yourself. So now your partner's like, oh, okay, I'm the bad guy. I felt like I was the bad guy when I first was hit with, let's get a divorce. I want a divorce. I don't want to be with you anymore.
Mhm,
And I had to really take a step back and was like, what? I've been trying to be the best and the most amazing wife ever. Was I perfect? No, absolutely
mhm,
flawed. But for me, in my mind, I was trying to be
mhm.
the best wife and mother for my spouse.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, yeah,
have someone tell you, no, you're not doing it for me, even though I'm doing everything that I think I should do. I had to grow. I had to heal from that.
yeah. Yeah,
So
and it's so important after the end of any marriage, after
mhm,
divorce, that healing process takes place.
mhm,
It's vital that that takes place because what will happen, and there's a lot of people that will argue this, but
mhm.
what will happen every single time if you jump from a marriage into another relationship, you are going to repeat the same mistake.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. I'm like, oh my God. And it was hard, you guys, for me to take a step back.
Mhm.
Not that I was
Yeah.
saying, well, what's wrong with me? I didn't look at it like that. I looked
No.
at it as, okay, this has ended. I'm not fulfilling this person. Let me heal me
Mhm.
so that I can
Right.
be the best version of myself that I can be for the next person God is going to send me. I'm going to be the very best version of shit. Let
Absolutely.
me work on the things that I need to work on. Now,
Mhm.
I had to work through anger. I had to work through bitterness. I wasn't going to blame him or continue to put that
Mhm.
blame on him. I
Right.
forgave him, and I forgave myself most importantly, because I know
Mhm.
deep down there is nothing wrong with me. Okay, because I think that's the
Right.
thing. We get guilt confused with shame. Shame says there's something wrong with you. Guilt says, okay, let me acknowledge a mistake I made. Let me fix it. Right?
Mm.
You're not fixing it for the other person. At least that's how
Mm.
I see it in my head. So the
Mhm.
hardest part was actually taking a look at myself. Although I was amazing, I was trying to be the best wife possible.
Mhm.
Me as a human being, let me take a look at me in the areas that I need to improve in because apparently there is not perfection here.
Oh, you
I
figured
need to
that
tell you,
out.
I'm in such a small town, and people in small
Yeah.
towns, they think that you get stuck in a box, right?
Mhm.
So my ex has now moved on and he is married. I am not, and people think that's an
Mhm.
issue. That is not an issue because I don't want to end up with the wrong person, and I'm definitely not going to repeat a pattern of behavior. Um,
Right.
I'm not
Right.
going to repeat the mistakes from the first one. I had in my first marriage because I was a pastor's wife.
Mhm.
um, I pretty much just my own individuality was gone. Like I needed to be, I was
I
going to be whatever I needed to be in that relationship for it to be successful.
and I understand that completely because
Right.
I was a military officer's wife.
Hmm.
So I had that same I did not exist. I only existed so that I could make him look good
Right.
and our family look good in the eyes of everyone else and blah blah blah. When the
Right.
truth was, I was miserable inside. I really was, and it
Yeah.
was hard, hard, hard for me. And the day came for me. Um, he wouldn't end it. So I finally gathered the courage to say goodbye. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was do or die for me. I kind of, I was losing my will to live, and heck, I didn't even know who I was.
Hmm.
I was so everything I said. I remember when, as soon as I left that marriage, every time I talked to somebody, it was was still talking about my ex-husband. I wasn't talking about me. I was still
Right.
talking about him. My whole life was so wrapped up in him that I didn't know who Carrie was on the inside.
Right.
And I had forgotten that I'm a joyful person and I love life and I
Hmm.
love to have fun and I'm never going to go through that again. I don't care what happens.
Right. I
Yeah.
did. It forced me in if anybody goes back and listens to episode season 1 of All Things Undone,
Mhm.
episode 9, I talk about that. Because you could be so wrapped up in another person. I was so depressed. People didn't know that. I was
Mhm.
secretly taking pills. I went to the gym all the time because people think that's a good thing. It is a good thing, unless you're using it as like an outlet for, yeah, to just to get out all of this. I felt numb. I remember posting that on social media that I just felt numb
Mhm. Yeah.
all the time, and no one, it didn't like it went over everyone's head because I did such a good job of wearing a mask, such a good
Mhm.
job of being whatever I needed to be, whatever that chameleon was for the day. If I needed to be purple one day, pink one day, and blue the next day,
Mhm.
to for us to maintain the image that we were maintaining for the community, I did that. I
Yeah,
did,
it's the
you
same
know.
thing, Cheryl. It is the same thing, the same way that I had to be. I couldn't step outside the box. I had to
Right.
be in the box, and the only things that were permitted were, you know, church groups or officers' wives groups I mean it was my whole life. I even lived on a military installation. I didn't know how to be a civilian in any way, shape, or form, and I didn't have any life that was mine. Everything I did reflected on my husband, so I completely understand where you came from, and you got lost.
I
there
did.
was there was no out. There was no way to, when people are always looking at you and everything that you're doing, it's you completely get crushed on the inside.
You do. It's a tough space to be in, and
Mhm.
people don't see that. They say, "Oh, you have a good, nice, plush life," but thank goodness my ex, he wanted to do something different, and I'm glad.
Mhm.
I'm glad because it allowed me to be me now. My life
Yeah.
is obliterated. I'm so happy and so free, because I no longer have to stay in this rigidity that was killing me on the inside.
Mhm.
It was
Right.
killing me.
And it
So,
wasn't killing my ex-husband. And
oh no.
he was great in that's what I talk about boxes. He was great in his
In
box.
his
That's
box.
where he wanted to be, and he married somebody else and she's in the box with him, and that's really great. I'm glad
Good.
for them. I'm glad they're in their box, but I don't want to be in that box.
That part. That part. I think that's what people need to understand about this is the whole purpose of this show.
Mhm.
Understand that when you go through a breakup, whether you've been with someone 20 years or 5 years,
Mhm.
count your blessings, learn your lessons, be thankful for your lessons. Don't hold bitterness towards them, anger
Right.
towards them. Release it, release them with love, let it go so you can freely live the way you want to live. Um,
Right.
And I know some people say, well, that was my one. He was my, obviously, if you're not together with him or if you're not together with her anymore, they were not your one.
Well,
Okay, so allow
yeah,
yourself to grieve that, get past it. Don't stay there. Don't stay
yeah.
there. Give yourself
Hey, get out of the blame game.
that part.
Get
Get
it.
out of the blame game.
Get out
Stop
of the
blaming
blame
your
game.
partner for everything.
Right.
My
And
ex is he likes his box. He
yeah,
likes
see, and the way for me to the way for me and other couples that I've talked to get
it.
out of the that box of the blame game after the end of a marriage,
Mhm.
and there's bitterness that happens at first. It's a part of grieving. The anger happens, but the forgiveness has to come, and the way that it does is how I did it and how other couples that I know have done it, which is to pray for them.
Yes.
Whatever faith it is that you have, or meditate for them, pray for them, however that looks for you, but give good wishes, goodwill every day until you are relieved of it, until that feeling of anger toward them, or bad juju that you send their way because they've upset you, um, that ends. If you keep doing that, one day it just, and I can't tell you how many days, and I can't tell you how many months, that
Right.
it's just one day you wake up and realize that all you want for your ex-partner is everything, all the love and everything that they have always wanted in their life, and
Right.
you no longer have to feel the pain
Hmm.
of that separation anymore.
Yeah, just let it go. It took me a minute. Like I said, I'm 3 years out, and I still have my moments sometimes where I'm like, like your brain will take you there. Like, remember that one time? And I literally, I talk out loud to myself, like, listen, Cheryl, that's not what
Mm.
we're doing today. We're not
No, that's just
we're
a
not gonna entertain that,
story. It's
and I'll do my little positive
yeah,
mantras really quickly because
right,
for the most part, I'm good. Like 9 times out of 10, I'm good. But who
right.
knows? Sometimes I can wake up and I'm like, what the hell? I could have some
Oh,
weird ass dream and wake up and be like,
well, Cheryl, that just makes you human.
right?
Really. You're just a human
Seriously.
being. Nobody does anything perfectly on this earth. We none of us do. Now, I'm a relationship coach, but nothing. I am not perfect, and I don't claim to be perfect, and I don't claim to tell you how to have a perfect relationship.
Right.
I claim to tell you how you can have an intimate relationship, how you can grow closer together with very simple steps. There are thousands of books out there, thousands of them that tell people, these big, big, thick books that are 3, 4, 500 pages about how to have your marriage. And this is just a simple book with simple changes.
Mhm.
Um, Most human beings, if you tell them to completely change their whole life, that book will sit on that coffee table.
Yes, Lord.
My book, you can open that book, and in a Saturday afternoon, you can be done. You know,
That's
it's
beautiful.
it's
And
that simple with simple changes, and we as human beings are not going to change or flip our whole lives over. We're just not going to.
no,
If I said to you, you have to go on this starvation diet for 1,000 calories a day from now for the next year, how long you think you'd last?
I was about to say, I'm
I
not
I,
going to do it.
I wouldn't last a minute,
I was
but
about to say, I'm not going to do it
I wouldn't do it.
right now.
I wouldn't do it, nobody, little changes. If I said to you, take away 100 calories a day in your diet, can you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that.
Absolutely.
It's a very small, simple step, and you can do that, and be consistent with it. If you take small steps in the right direction, then those changes take a hold. If
Mhm.
you're trying to, build a mansion on $2, you're gonna get a pretty crappy looking mansion, made out of toothpicks,
Right.
So
I'm going to go ahead and pop the link to her book into the chat so you all
mm,
can take a look at that. The name of the book is Get Out of the Box and Into Play: The Secret to a Lasting Relationship. And that's what we're talking about. We've kind of been talking about it now for the better part, almost coming up on an hour now. So I love that. And trust me, I will be getting my copy this Friday. Just know that. Because I'm
You'll
manifesting
be.
my future spouse. And I have learned the hard way, like all of that materialistic stuff, that is just not where it's at. I've learned some
Mm-mm.
hard lessons by dating, just because when I first started dating, which is literally when my divorce was final, I literally started dating. And one of my requirements
Oh.
that that they they can't, they gotta have some money. They gotta have some money. I'm not gonna date them if they don't have no money, right? And I did. I
Mhm.
went out, like I dated three different guys, and they all were like over the six-figure income because that's having money to me.
Mhm.
And although they were sweet in their own way, I noticed that that money was their prop. And that was three different guys. Like they felt like because they had money, that's what solidified them. Like that's what made them a whole person. They were lacking
Mhm.
emotionally, like the way they thought in some ways. I'm like, what the fuck? How did I
Mhm.
let me just, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and pay for my, I'm gonna leave you here at the restaurant. I'm gonna go. So yeah, they turn out to be assholes.
Oh my.
Really, really sweet ones, but I'm like, okay, sure, that's not it.
Well, you see,
So now,
and
mhm,
my husband hid
mhm.
what he had from me.
Oh,
He hid. Yeah, he didn't want me to know, and he kept it a secret, and didn't let me know until we'd been together for a while, and then he was really like super cautious because he didn't want me to be attracted to him for any reason like that. So not
right.
that he's independently wealthy, but he made good money, um and could we could support each other very well. So but he didn't want me to know that. He wanted me to love him for who he is
Mhm.
and not for what he had.
And I think that is quite all right to
Mhm.
go into anything, any new relationship that way. I think that is quite all right. Now, another
Mhm.
book, I'm going to get your book, but another book that really,
Mhm.
really changed my life, and I had got it from one of these guys that I dated who's
Mhm.
very wealthy. He was going through his own spiritual journey. He was healing, and I don't know. I'm hoping he's doing well in life. I haven't talked to him in over 2 years.
Mhm.
He gave me this book called The Four Agreements,
Oh yeah.
and
Don Miguel Ruiz.
yeah,
Yes.
Danielle Ruiz. As a matter of fact, I'm working
Mhm.
through Mastering the Self. I'm working
Oh
on that
yeah.
right now. But
Fabulous.
it's another short read. But what caught me and it just stuck in my head after I read it was okay, just four principles for me to live my life by. Let my word
Mhm.
be impeccable. Don't take it personal. Don't make assumptions. Do your very best. I'm like, I can rock with that. Like you said,
Yes.
100 calories. Yeah, I can't go
Yes.
1,000 calorie a day diet, but I can take away
Mm-mm.
100 calories a day. It made it
Right.
so simple. I was like, this is like the Bible in 4 steps.
Yes. Yes. And you could be consistent at that. It's
Right.
there's so much out there that overcomplicates, and the simpler the better, the easier the better. We can always take little steps. It's
Check the comments. I'm checking
yeah.
the comments to see if anyone. Okay, so Jonathan has a book recommendation. We Wear the Mask by Paul Lawrence Dunbar. I've heard of that book. Let's
Mhm.
see. Did we miss anything else? Because I don't want to miss
Mhm.
anyone's comment. And I love something that Wayne said. He said after we were talking about what we had in our first relationships versus the second one, and my
Mhm.
producer, I love like his current relationship. It's kind
Mhm.
of the same story, being aligned with the person that he's with. But he says this:
Mhm.
after my first failed marriage, I knew I no longer craved what I wanted. I craved what I needed.
Yeah,
And
and that's so true. That's
right?
so true. It really is. Eh, eh, Having with the couples that I have talked to over the years and helped over the years, it's just the best relationships, the most successful relationships are when there's a soul complement. When one meets the other on a soul level.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that.
Mhm.
I'm looking for someone that that connects spiritually with my soul, not just
Mhm.
because you think I got a pretty face or whatever the case may be. That's
Mhm.
it's just really disappointing. I don't know how else to say it. So yeah, I'm like, okay, God, at this point, I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna manifest, I'm gonna go out naturally into the world because
Mhm.
it's gonna be out, but I'm not out here looking for anyone. I'm none of that kind of stuff. Let me just live my life and be happy. Now we're coming up on an
Mhm.
hour, and
Mhm.
if y'all go to, and I'm gonna put the link in here, but if you go to Carrie's website, which you'll have the link for, she has a resource on there for couples. And it is, let me see if I can find it because I had it pulled up.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and we're gonna be taking a do we need to taking a break in just a minute. Hold on, Wayne. Let me see if I can pull this up and we'll take a break in just a minute. Okay, so she has a free download on her website. So I'm going to put the link up for you all to go and get this resource. It's 50 things couples can do for fun. 50 things couples can do for fun. So we are going to make the link available to you guys. You can go and download that copy. You can get free access to that. You can also sign up for her newsletter so that you can stay in contact with Kari on any of the relationship advice you may need. I know I do have some couples watching. Thank you so much for the couples that are watching. But we're going to take our last break. And then when we come back, Kari, we're going to wrap up the show and probably talk about a couple other things. But here we go. All right, Wayne, we're ready. All right, we are back. And after the show, I'm going to post a link to how you can get those 50 free 50 tips of things to do fun with a couple. I've
50
met
things
that all
couples
up.
can do
50
for
free
fun.
resources after the fun.
It's all right.
Just know my brain has been on go since like literally 5:45 this
Oh yeah.
morning. So
Oh
it
yeah.
is cool. It is cool. All right. So for final thoughts, because we're getting ready to wrap it up for the day, for the night. Our guest
Mhm.
again is Kari Petruch. She is a master relationship coach. She has Get Out of the Box and Into Play: The Secret to a Lasting Relationship out now on Amazon. It's only $9.95. I'm getting my copy this Friday when I get my paycheck because, yes, the sister is on a budget. Yes, we are. We're on a budget. But hey, please don't forget to download the BWNC Radio app. It is free. And I now have where you can donate to the channel if for some reason you feel a need to donate to the channel. Hopefully, Kari is not gone yet.
No, she's not. I'm
Okay,
here.
he's right here. Cool. So, do you have any final thoughts or anything else you wanted to share concerning your business, your coaching? There she is. Your coaching business, how people can get in contact with you if they want to schedule a coaching session, your newsletters. Give us all of that information.
Well, it's really easy. You just go to my website, highestintentcoach.com, and you can schedule an appointment with me, and we can talk about what we can do for you. Or you can buy my book, or I have a course on there that you can buy, and it's a do-it-yourself. It follows my book. Um, Comes with a free 2-hour closing session of coaching. And I have a blog on there. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to give me your name or anything on my blog. For my blog, you just go to the website and you go to my blog, and there are hundreds of pieces of information on there. They're small bits of information, so it's like 3 to 4 paragraphs, so it's a quick, easy read with little tips and tools in there and little stories in there to help you along in your relationship. And that costs you not even your name.
Beautiful. I love it.
Right.
Thank you so much for being my guest today. We shall be in contact, you and I.
Oh,
Um,
yes, we will.
yeah, this is the beginning of I just know it, a very beautiful partnership. I said
Oh,
partnership,
thank you.
relationship, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I love it. You're in my energy now. So
Oh,
let's see.
yeah.
There we go. So thank you all for joining All Things Undone podcast. You can catch us on BWNC Radio tomorrow.
Mm.
We're also streaming on all other platforms where you get your podcasts, including Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Free Radio, or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. Wayne, you can take us on out. Have a beautiful week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it. That's it.